So a couple of you guys have hit me up in the comments with some wiring questions, and so I thought I'd just share some of the tools that I use and little bits and pieces that I've learned, because a little while ago I knew nothing about wiring, and through watching various videos online and talking to people, I've sort of gathered a bit of knowledge, but I still remember what it was like when I first started out. I didn't know, the difference between an analog sensor and a digital sensor, and where things need to go on the ECU, and I just took my time, and I sort of worked off some things that I did know, and then that sort of helped me to understand other stuff that I didn't know. So as you learn, you'll sort of get the hang of it. Like, say you want to add a new sensor to your ECU, there might be 2 pins, or there might be 3 pins, or if you go to, say, drive-by-wire, it gets a little bit more complicated. The pedal's got, I think it's got 4 wires, and the throttle's got 6 wires. But really all it's about is just working out what each of those plugs needs and where it's got to come from on the ECU. So yeah, you draw it out on a piece of paper, and then draw yourself a little map. And once you sort of work through it, it all starts to make sense. And so anyway, I thought I'd show some of my stuff. So this is my little wiring box that I made for myself. I'll just show you this. There's some pictures of this on my Instagram. So this is something I've been working on for my stepson. He's got a naturally aspirated sawyer, and he's on what's called his provisional license here in Australia. So he can't have a turbo car and for another 2 years. But in the meantime, I'll just show you. We have been working on manual swapping his car. So this is a R150 gearbox. He actually just got his clutch rebuilt. That's it down there. I was Geiken. And this is his pedal. And I was just working out how to use my spare Wilwood clutch slave. But once we've done that, I had got him to buy this ECU. It was $200, and it's a standalone. It's a little bit older, but it's got pretty decent features. So it's a completely wire-in standalone. But what I've done is this grey part here and these plugs here are actually from an old HKS piggyback. And what I actually did was I cut the wires, I de-pinned the wires from this side, and I wired them up to the Adaptronic. And so then this will plug into his existing loom. So this will plug into the car in place of his existing ECU, and then this will run his car. So once we've manual swapped it, this will probably be the next step. So I've done most of the stuff I can do here, but he needs a couple of other things. So what I've done here is, this is an injector loom. So I just use some cheap and cheerful Chinese connectors. These are often like $1 or 80 cents each. So these are for Denso injectors that he'll use. The sheathing that I use, oh gosh, I forget the brand of it. I get it from PT Motorsport here in Australia, but this outer loom sheathing, you can get plain black Raychem stuff, but I quite like this one with the little white bit crossed over. I'm sorry, I forget the brand, but my loom in my Cresta, the guy who I paid to do my loom originally, that's the stuff that he used, the stuff with the white crossover stuff. So you've got connectors, you've got the sheathing. Okay, so good quality sheathing. The heat shrink is generally by a brand called Raychem. DR25, I think, is one that people use, and then there's also, you know, DR25 equivalents by other brands. The wire is one of the most important things, and it's Tefzel. So it's really high quality. People call it mil spec wiring or military spec wiring, and so it's got certain properties, its strength, its conductivity, etc., etc. It's just really good quality wiring, and it can get quite expensive, particularly if you're using quite thick wire. But basically, this connector here that I'm about to undo, okay, this is called a Deutsch connector, and this is an easy way of, so we've got, what have we got? We've got 3 wires at the moment on this side of the loom. What have we got on this side? Yeah, we've got, I'm looking through the camera, 4, okay? And what I've actually done, I'll see if you guys can see this. So what I've actually done, see this big thick red wire here? Okay, so we've got 6 coils, and they are paired. So 1 and 6 are paired together. 2 and 5 are paired together, and 3 and 4 are paired together. Just because his car runs what's called batch fire. So the injectors are batch fire, so 1 and 6 fire together, 2 and 5, and then 3 and 4. And so these in my loom are actually wired together. So 6, which is down here, and 1, which is down here. If we have a look, this wire comes all the way down to here, and this one here comes down to here. They actually join in under here using what's called an open barrel splice, and I'll show you that in a minute too. And then it comes down here to the connector essentially. So you can tell that they're the same because if we look at the wires going into the plug, they're both orange. So those are both connected, right? Same with 2 and 5. They're going to be yellow, and then 3 and 4 I think will be green. Okay? Green. And then the white wire, I actually just copied this off my Cresta loom. So Sam at Whitey's Wiring here in Australia, he's a really experienced auto electrician. That's what he used. He used white. But if we go up to the connector here, you'll notice we've got the orange, the green, and the yellow for the injectors, and then red. So where did the white come from? Well, all the whites, if you can see this, all the whites come to here, and this red wire, it's hard to do this looking through the camera, goes through, loops back, and then is pointing up this direction, and then all the white wires come up to here, and they are then crimped together using an open barrel splice just here, and then I've just put a piece of heat shrink over the top of it. So the reason for that is it's it's stronger. You know, I could have connected these end to end with this red wire like that. So the red wire comes down and then my 6 white wires come here and you crimp it. But it's a lot harder to get your 6 wires all lined up and then your one big thick wire all together and put a crimp around it. So what you do is you turn it around, and my index finger is now the red wire and my other hand is the other 5 wires, and you crimp them so they're all pointing in that direction. So that's what that is. And this single red wire, which there isn't one yet on this side because I don't know how I'm going to run it in the car yet, but a red wire will be in here supplying 12 volt via a relay to this injector loom. Okay, so there's an injector loom. Okay, so that controls the injectors. Okay, the next thing I've got here is a coil loom. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert it to R35 GTR coils. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. You can get the same coils for free or cheap from the wreckers in cars such as Nissan X-Trail. So whenever I go to the wreckers, I always collect a few sets of coils, and I've got some put away for Oliver and I've got some spares for my car. And that's what I did with the Cresta. I got 6 coils and I brought an alloy bracket. And so this loom is the same. The 1 and 6 are paired, 2 and 5 and 3 are 4. They're all paired together because the coils are batch fire with this ECU setup. On my Cresta, everything's sequential. So there's 6 different colored wires, and in fact, see how we've got a 4 wire connector here? On the Cresta, it's a big 6 connector wire because each coil, or each injector in this case, fires individually. It's not batch fire, whereas in Oliver's setup that we've done, it's batch fire. So both the coils and the injectors on his particular setup are tied together, and they fire in batches. So when 6 fires, 1 also fires, or when 1 fires, 6 also fires. And I believe they do the fueling a little bit different, but we don't need to worry about that because that's the tuner's job. So with this one's a little bit different. The coils, right, these need 3 wires. So here I've used red, black, and white. In this case, the red is 12 volt, the black is ground, and the white is the signal wire. White is signal for 1 and 6. I've used blue for 2 and 5. Blue for 2 and 5, and then 3 and 4 is purple for the signal wire. Okay. Now, again, this one's also a little bit different. So we've got our white, our blue, and our purple for our signals. On this side of the plug, there is no 12 volt yet. But if we look on this side going to the wires, we've done the same thing as the other one, where we've got the big red wire. It comes up and it loops back, and then it's connected via one of these bunches. So I think it's this bunch here, okay? The reason we have these bunches, you can probably see, is the black wires. So the black wires go to ground, and they actually get grounded to the head. So instead of having one wire, I decided to split it into two, just because it was easier to crimp 3 grounds to one of these, and then another 3 grounds from 3 other coils to this one, and then these will probably eventually get shortened, and a ring terminal will go on here, and a ring terminal will go on here, and then they'll just get bolted to the head or somewhere on the engine, usually the back of the head, and that's the ground for the coils. And then the 12 volt, there'll be a wire over here that'll go off to a relay, and the relay will supply 12 volt power when you turn the ignition on, or the ECU might turn on the relay. I'm not quite sure yet, but we don't need to worry about that. But anyway, so your ignition coils need 12 volt, a ground, which now this is a difference. It's just a regular ground to the head, not to be confused with a sensor ground, which I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, so for coils, it's ground, 12 volt, and then the signal. And these signal wires will come from the ECU. So these colorful wires here will go to 3 pins at the ECU, and the ECU will send out the signals on these 3 wires. Same with this one. This loom here will eventually go to 3 pins on this connector here. And the way I know where they have to go is a document like this. So let's just have a quick look. Digital input, ignition. Okay, so that's the coils, ignition output 1, ignition output 3, and ignition output 2. So that's where purple, white, and blue will go on the pins on here. Okay, and as you can see all the stuff I've printed out. I really like to print out stuff. I make notes. So here's a list. That's actually a list of the Toyota names of everything. That's where it is on the Toyota ECU, and then this is where it goes on the Adaptronic ECU. But I just made a list here of all the things that I need to wire in extra. So crank sensor, cam sensor, map sensor, etc., etc. Okay, this is a little bit more complicated than just wiring in a single sensor to your ECU, but I just thought I'd share a little bit about this anyway. So printing out stuff, you can find out information online. It's invaluable. Okay, so that's that. Let's get on to the tools. Or rather, this is another a coil connector, and with it comes these little pins. Okay, the way they work is your wire goes in here, and these 2 parts get crimped using a pair of crimpers. So it's a bit hard to see. Hey, can we focus? Yes. I need a pointer. Let's use this. Okay. So the wire, the exposed part, sits in between those 2 at the front, and those 2 get crimped over, and then these bits get crimped over on the insulation, and that holds it in there. It makes a really strong bond. They say it's like mechanically welding the pin to the end of the wire, and when you use the good quality Tefzel wire, it basically shouldn't come undone. All right, so each and every pin is different. So if you muck up a crimp or you whatever, sometimes it's handy to have extra pins. Sometimes I've had to order a whole new connector just to get a pin. It's just life, unfortunately. But you end up with a whole bunch of spare bits and pieces, which is good. But yeah, I think these connectors were like 85 cents or something from AliExpress or eBay or something like that. If you can buy genuine connectors, I mean, I'm doing this for Oliver, my stepson, and connectors can get quite expensive. I think the wire for that was probably $40. So if you can get better connectors, because if you need to undo them and unplug them all the time, they can break. It's easy enough to replace them, but if you buy good connectors in the first place, they usually don't break. They usually last, 20 or 30 years. So this is my little box that I got together, and in it I keep my tools. So my cheap eBay heat gun, and this crimper here is the one I use the most, okay? If you can have a look here, it's a copy of a Sargent 1026 CT. The actual Sargent crimper is about 110 Australian dollars. I don't think I paid that for this one. This would have been $40 or $60, but just have a look. So the way, it's probably hard to explain now, and my phone is running out of battery. I'll make a bit more of a video later on of actually how to crimp. I'll just go through the tools now. But basically those two tabs go facing upwards, and when you push this up, if you can see just in the top there, I'll see if I can get it to focus. If you see just up there in the top where it says C, there's it curves inwards like that, and it pushes the pins over. So the two pins, I'll try and do this. Okay, the two pins curl over like that, and then they trap the wire, and that's what gives you your crimp. So these ones, the first position and second position, I actually use for just about every crimp. Okay. The next tool I got and or would recommend is, so these Engineer, what are these ones called? PA09, okay? These ones do very, very tiny terminals. It doesn't look like it on the camera here, but that 1.0 terminal is very, very tiny. So tiny, in fact, that I can hardly see it properly, even with my glasses. But these I use for crimping the link ECU expansion connectors, which I can show you in a minute. But yes, so for adding sensors to a link plug-in, I'll grab it out actually. Let's see if we can find it. So in here I've got my stuff in bags. There's my sheathing, and so that's some of the plain black stuff. That's my sheathing, that's my heat shrink in that bag there. And then these are all my various different wires in different sizes. And then just random, there's some relays and stuff, random bits and pieces. And then here's all my connectors. So here's my dodgy butt connectors for doing stereo stuff. There's some lugs for doing stereo stuff. Here are some cheap Chinese. So these are an open barrel splice, but they're a ring terminal. Some spades for redoing relays. Chinese Deutsch connectors, so they're the same things as what we used here. You know, you can pick up a kit like this for like 20 bucks. Then here are those are some GM connectors and some pins to suit. These are all my assorted spare pins. You definitely don't need anything like this. This is just stuff that I've collected. These are, without trying to spill, so these are a open barrel splice kit. Again, I think I bought it on AliExpress. The way we joined those, you know, the power for the injectors and the grounds for the coils and the power for the coils, where all the wires came together and they crimped onto one wire, they are all using one of these, which is called an open barrel splice. And all it is it's a U-shaped thing. Okay, and in fact, I can demonstrate for you. Where'd I put my crimpers? Okay, so we take the crimper, and it's probably a little bit too big for the front one. The important thing is to make sure it goes in straight. So try and sort of turn it. In fact, you can actually give it a little helping hand to start with, to squash it in, and then can be quite fiddly. But you want to push it down and you want to make sure, okay. So I've got it in there and I've made sure that it's going down straight and evenly both sides. And then we push it down and then we squeeze it. And I don't know whether you can see that. Okay, that didn't even work right. Because that splice is actually too big for that crimp. Oh, did it work? No, it didn't work. Okay, we'll try it on this one. Now, this I don't necessarily recommend, but this will make it easier for you if you're just starting out. They sell these on eBay. It's an end-to-end splice. So essentially, it makes joining two wires together so much easier. The wire sits in that part, and then that bit grabs the insulation, and same with this side. The wire sits in that part, and that bit grabs the insulation. You then paint over it with this liquid electrical tape, and boom, you've joined your wires together. So we'll try and crimp this because these are a little bit smaller. So I'll put it in the crimper, see if you can see it. So we put it in, making sure it comes down evenly. It usually works when you've got wire in there, so, and then give it a squeeze. And then quite often you have to wriggle it out. This is the difference between a $300 crimper and a $60 to $100 crimper. But can you see there? Now it's crimped over properly. See that? And so now that wire won't be able to pull out of there. So I'll just crimp the other side. So I've squeezed it down until it both sides are in, and then I give it a good squeeze like that. Make sure you squeeze it nice and tight, and then that has also crimped properly. So that's it there. So if that had a wire in there, that'd be nice and strong. And then because these legs are a bit longer, you might not use this crimper to do this part. Although, so what I've often done is gone like that, and then crimp this side, but I actually use a different crimper for these ones. So we'll get this guy here. This is another one I use quite often. And in fact, once upon a time, all I had were those other red ones, the orange engineer ones, and these ones here. So this is a similar sort of thing, but see how it's a bit wider? So see how it doesn't fit in there? We need to go across to this side. Boom. See how the legs fit in? Whereas on this side it won't fit in there. So that means it's the wrong size. So we'll put it in here. You can see the legs are in there. There we go. It's hard to find the right angle. All right. Just wanting to walk to the side a bit. We'll see how we go. All right, now it's working. Look at that, boom. Okay, we've crimped our insulation. There you go, that's how that works. I don't know what the part number on this one is, but it's just got wider jaws. And in fact, this guy here, which is another Sargent tool, in fact, Haltech sells a set with, all it is this red one and this blue one here. And I reckon if you had the red one, the blue one, and the Engineer PA9, I reckon you could do just about, you could do most stuff with these three crimpers right here. So Sargent, whatever number this is, the blue crimper. Haltech sell these as a set for an exorbitant amount of money, but you can buy them individually for cheap. Okay, so those are the tools. That's what an open barrel splice is. Liquid electrical tape is your friend. Good quality heat shrink is your friend. That is most of the stuff to get you going. A good set of wire strippers. So I've got these ones that I use for anything bigger than AWG 20. AWG is American wire gauge. You basically just cut it and then pull the insulation off. The good quality Tefzel wire, you do kind of need half decent wire strippers, and you can buy really expensive ones. The ones I find work the best are these ones here. These are nice and cheap. They're not actually the proper ones you should use on Tefzel, because they don't. With Tefzel, you need to cut it all the way around and then pull it off, like how those ones do it. Whereas this just bites into it and rips it off. But I've had success with these. So this is, I just use these, and it's actually got a scale on it down the bottom here, so you can line up and pull the right amount of insulation off as well. That's another important thing. So when you get a wire, say your splice is only 2 millimeters long, you only need to strip 2 millimeters of insulation off it, just enough to sit in that U. That's as much insulation as you need to strip off. And then I guess the last tool is just a pair of side cutters. And none of these tools that I've just shown you are expensive at all. In fact, electrical tools, I haven't spent a lot of money at all, really. I think the most expensive thing was my Engineer scissors, which were $30 that I just bought the other day because I wanted some nice scissors. Anyway, so that is my little introduction into wiring. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'm more than happy to help. And yeah, if you need to watch the video a couple of times, I apologize. I wouldn't want to watch myself a couple of times. But anyway, if you need to watch it back, please do, because yeah, there are some other good videos out there. Like I watched HPA Academy did a video on splicing, and then the Haltech videos of Dave doing some wiring during COVID he runs through how he wires up some of the sensors and that kind of thing on a Haltech. It's all the same stuff. But yeah, some of the things that you don't really hear people talk about is these open barrel splicers. In fact, don't use Chinese ones. Get yourself, here's my little box of splicers here. So I buy, when I need good quality stuff, I buy it from Mauser, RS Components, or PT Motorsport, or a proper electronics place. These are proper TE brand open barrel splice. These are absolutely tiny ones. The most popular or most common ones, and the ones you'll use mostly, are these ones here. 63130-2. That's for basically joining 2 and 3 wires together. The way they measure them is called a CMA rating, and so it's the amount of wire. So like an AWG 20 has a certain CMA. So 3 20 AWG wires together has a certain CMA, and so if the CMA range fits within the range that this splice will do, then that's the right size splice. Just to get a little bit technical for you. Then if I didn't have these when I did the, on the ground for the injector, the coil looms, where I had like 4 wires together, a thick wire, and then 3 or 4. I just used these ones, which I managed to make it work. But if I'd had these bigger ones, I would have definitely used these. So these are a 62357-1. And you can see here actually, PT Motorsport, where I got these from, they give a millimeter square size. So these are 3.7 to 5 millimeters square. And then this one here is a 0.7 to 2.5 millimeters square. And you could literally get your bundles of wire, measure it with a pair of vernier calipers, and then work out what splice you needed if you had to do that. But yeah, anyway, that's enough for now. Thanks for watching. Leave us a like if this was helpful. Click subscribe if you just click subscribe anyway. It helps people find the videos. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks for watching.